Starting off the second turn, the Romans have a so-so rally phase. A lot of their artillery remain unrallied. It leaves them limber so they could keep moving, but they were close enough that they were happy anyway. I don't know how much closer they want to move. We also had one unit route over here from this ladder, and I think that's all that happens in a Roman rally phase. And so now we go to the Judean fire. Both sides are going to fire probably before I come back. A bunch more Romans killed, including one here. This looked like it was the beginning of the video. I hope it wasn't, because I missed a few of my precious words. The Roman who was ensconced on the wall, I think nobody's left on the walls anymore, was taken out. But the Romans did manage to take out one of the zealots. Ooh. Shot him out of here using ballista and a bunch of archers. And now I guess we go to the Roman movement, where they're going to push forward. I've got to make some decisions. The problem is the testudo is useless. It's great if I'm facing archers and I don't have to climb up a wall, but I can't lay my ladders down, etc. There might be some cases where I want back row guys to be in testudo, but chances are that the Judeans are just going to fire in at the forces that are attacking. Another possibility is going through the breach. I have to look at the movement point cost, but I doubt the testudo has enough movement points to get through a breach easily. The breach costs 3, so if I can move up to the breach in testudo, it might make sense, because then I can move into the breach and act. Well, I can't attack in testudo formation though. It really is turtled. All right, let's push into the Judean side of the turn. We had the Roman attacks, and you can see they didn't gain as much as they did last time. In fact, they didn't gain anything up here. Here we retook this space coming off the tower here. We have some rams. I forgot to do this during the missile phase that did can't touch the board. Yeah. I think this is in here, this is here. Nothing else makes sense unless I'm overstacked there, in which case somebody's down there. Some attack here, success, limited success. Those were the B result, which is kind of an optional result, but if I retreat through my own stuff, I end up panicking, routing, whatever, and so I got to pretty much stay on the wall in this disordered format that you see here. These guys were just archer fire. But here's where it's impressive. The Romans coming through the breach, and they were just able to, with the multiple attack markers, basically one unit succeeds, then they gang up and hit, then they gang up and hit. They just cleared their way through and are now beginning to make attacks through here. I think this is hopeless. I'm not quite sure, because I have to look at the surrender of an area, but I think we're going to be losing this upper city here, and that's really a pain in the ass for the Judeans, because that widens or increases the size of the wall that they have to defend next time. So that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to hit these two areas. Either of them could really open up the wall space greatly. And even if I got both, which wouldn't open it up as much, it still takes a big chunk out in a way that this doesn't. This actually reduces the amount of wall space that the Judeans have to hold. Now, obviously, if I can take 3 areas, hey, great. That's well worth it. But we're seeing the advantage of the breaches at this point, and that we really kind of want those to launch our attacks, but you can't guarantee you're going to get them. Now, obviously, the siege engines, the armored towers, stuff like that, not the artillery, but the the Rams can bust their way through too and start making an entrance in the same sort of fashion. So we're kind of expecting that here. Over here, I don't think the Rams are as well positioned. We actually have, I think, some busting through the same area, just trying to open it up more. Because, you know, I've got one legion assigned to this attack, one legion assigned to this attack, more or less. So how do you capture an area? This one is the upper city. They're different depending on them. I will have to have 10 fresh heavy infantry inside the area and control at least 5 non-edifice built-up hexes. Right now, I have only 9 inside, and I sure the hell don't have all those hexes. And the problem, of course, is if the Jews wanted to try to channel the Romans, they could cause some fire here and cause some casualties as the Romans advance. But overall, I don't see how the crap that's down here is going to prevent the Romans from moving. I really don't see how stuff not on the walls is going to prevent the Romans from taking what they want to take. Alrighty. Judeans begin getting more reserves. Some back here. And I don't know what I placed, but something in there. And some guys here and here. And they made their rally rolls. Some of them succeeded, but it's tough when you're along the walls. I think I kind of screwed up here. I'm not going to redo it, but it's going to be hard for me to rally along here. And then down here, I think I may be able to rally through the zone. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got command of some of these units. But I think some of the guys over here across the breach, we're going to have trouble because the Romans project their zones into there. And there's nothing, no units to cancel that out. Anyway, after that, I guess we go to the fire, and the Romans go first. And I gotta remember to bust my way through some of those walls. So I got some engines up against them, and I think I do over here too. Succeeded in breaching the wall here. That killed the unit that was on top of it. The firepower again went largely against the Romans, although they managed to hold their lodgment here. I don't know how long they're going to stay there. The ballista were turned against them, but yeah. I think, so what I did earlier was I was firing on them as if they were in the clear. I don't think that's appropriate. I think they're in a wall hex, and that probably wiped out some Romans that shouldn't have been. Yeah, cheating a lot in favor of Judea, it seems like. So if the Romans win this one, we got a pretty good indication that not just this assault, but the game overall. We may have a pretty good indication that it is indeed skewed, because I think overall heavy advantages have accrued to the defenders that probably shouldn't have. We got a pretty good pile of Romans dying, but we're beginning to get a number of Judeans dying too, especially because of this punch through here. Not their best stuff, but you know. And the breach, that means nothing but trouble, because it means the Romans can start marching troops through. But the forces that we're attacking here, they've been heavily weakened by the assaults on the wall itself. So the breach damage is... there's maybe not enough to make it in through there. We'll see how it all goes. They gotta remember, they gotta take a lot of interior hexes, and they can't just ignore the defenders on the walls. And we make our way through the second turn in the assault. Yeah, once again, the Judeans were able to do a significant amount of damage, but I caught a modifier that I hadn't paid attention to or noticed. -1 DRM of fresh heavy infantry in defender's hex. That would have reduced a great deal of the casualties I think the Romans have taken. At least a little bit, you know. Oh well. the defenders were more furious than one would expect at the beginning. But again, there's this lopsided tendency for me to be cheating in favor of the Jews, and it has nothing to do with any kind of emotional attachment. Both sides are kind of cool in their own ways, you know. But I guess the heart has to go out for the Jewish defenders. But there are things about the Roman and being on the attack in a siege that just appeal to me as well. Anyway, I caught that this time, and that meant that this was hard to dislodge. Although I think most of those got shot away by the archers, which I was also cheating with. And we knocked some guys off ladders. We pretty much aimed for ladders. Cauldron's moving forward, trying to set up some sort of defensive line here, and another one here. This one, I think, is pretty damn hopeless. But I don't know, because the Romans have taken so many casualties. They have a really tough job ahead of them. It might even be worthwhile to withhold playing the Romans onto the field at the beginning of the game, and not all of them, but some of them, to see if you can coax. One of two things happens if you withhold a Roman legion. Either the Jews will distribute more evenly, which is more likely the case, or you might actually coax them to leave an area largely undefended, and you can just slam into it. As it stands, I'm hitting strength on strength. They have the walls, and what can you do, you know? It's not like I was able to start too much closer than the edge of the map here anyway, or over there. So I'm almost feeling like I should have hit the two legions here and had the other two off map. I'm not even sure they have to write down where they're going to come in. During the fire phases, again, the Romans took some beating, and trying to break our way through this wall, but we're not quite there yet. These are still pointing at this breach. They have to turn or move or something to get themselves into a position where they can start attacking the walls of Jerusalem again directly. The actual firepower, you know, shooting at those walls is just so much more difficult. And the testudos aren't all that helpful. They just make places where, I mean, if everything was in testudo, fine, but they just make places where the Judeans don't want to shoot, right? So they may change a target slightly or something. The towers, likewise, become places you don't particularly want to shoot. You want to shoot the infantry that's out in the open. And it's becoming harder and harder to find places. But the testudos can't do shit while they're in testudo formation. They can sit there and pin an enemy that's on the ground, but they can't do much against the walls. I guess you could try to move units up and get them into testudo and move them slowly up and move the towers up, etc. And once the towers actually make it there, launch an attack all at once. So I've had kind of a ragtag attack, especially where the slopes are. Over here, it was a little more solid initially. And I think that has impacted what's happening. But, you know, my guess is that it takes quite a bit of familiarity with the system to get to the point where you can conduct an assault effectively. If we see the Romans win this one, we know that it's slanted heavily in their favor. That not this assault, although this assault would certainly be the case too, but the campaign as a whole, because they have suffered really heavy losses, much more than I would expect. One of the problems is all the damn modifiers. It's really hard to memorize or remember such a small chart. And following this, hey, that's just not my style. Some players might like to go, oh, is there an additional attacking legion or faction in the same? No? Okay. Is there? I've seen guys in minis games who do that. And it's like, okay, that's a good way to, you know, quintuple the length of time you're going to be playing the game. They seem to be making minor but insignificant advances. A lodgment up here. Some damage here that might be hard for the Judeans to actually recover from, because they're kind of, this guy at least, this guy can slip back and get replaced. The attack through here is not really succeeding. I put a lot of effort in to try to take this tower location there, and likewise some heavy efforts at these bastions that didn't give any real satisfaction. Attacks along here, I expected better. We did make some ground into the breach here, which makes it so that we can go in either direction or try to punch through, because there's no zone into these spaces, but there is a zone in the breach, so I had to stop as I go in there because it's sloping down and they can directly impact the Romans. Anyway, now we're on the Judean turn. The Romans did not get enough to make me feel particularly good about them. I had some hopes, but yeah, even here where I thought I was in pretty good strong shape, I didn't gain anything against the defenses that were put up in my way. Rally phase isn't particularly effective in terms of rallying the units, but we got a significant number. I missed another +1 on their table because I have the Temple Quarter. So the new city and the Temple Quarter is +2. That puts it to +3 for these. So I got more troops than I would have expected. I'm actually out of one of their factions, and we got significant amounts of troops remaining. I don't have to call upon them. If a section falls, though, all of its reserves come in. They're not divided by faction. I can bring in whatever faction I like, but if I start losing a lot of sections at once, that would bring all the reserves in at once, and then might overwhelm the counter mix that I have, conceivably. There's still quite a few here, to the point where I kind of actually have to forego some of my replacement or my reinforcements. The replacements can still come from the wounded later, but right now we're still worrying about reinforcements coming in each of these action phases. Judean firepower phase, as usual, did a lot more damage to the Romans than the Romans have been able to do throughout the game to the Judeans. However, another breach is opened, and we got some, places where breaches I think are beginning to be close to coming down. See, this one's already there. One of these two got a pretty good roll. I think this one went down as well this turn. So we're, seeing the walls coming down, and they're taking units with them, and that means the Romans can stream in and maybe be able to take control of an area. I don't think they can clear the walls or anything like that. That's too tough a job. But, where they did stream through, significant force has been brought to bear in the Roman units that were pushing in. They've been pretty much neutralized at this point. And the Jewish counterattacks all across the line, but they're really effective right here where the breaches are. You can see they've pretty much thrown the Romans back from where they were. Other places they've succeeded too, getting hits here, knocking some guys off the tower, etc. I mean, the dead pile just keeps growing for the Romans. Turn 4, kind of interesting. We have a retrenchment here, and you know what? I don't think I actually attacked here. I'm actually partway through the attacks. I think they've got all their attacks along here to still go. It doesn't look like I made any ground whatsoever. I don't think I moved there either. As I see, I have a ram not in position. I think I just focused over here. I took the keep corner though, and the wall all the way part of it's breached, all the way through here has fallen. That's not good for the Judeans, but they do have a fairly dense defense here, coming over the breach, coming down the stairs. None of that's easy. The staircases here, you can't really see them. I think Ben Gora's in the way there. But I do have to moved these guys, and I have not yet. I think I have actually moved them. I think I just didn't turn this ram because I see I pulled, you know, all my retreats back, but I'm pretty sure I haven't launched an attack there. We also had one of the Testudos turn into a ladder finally. This one's in the process of doing that. Move forward. I don't know how much good it does when there are guys up on the ladder, but you know, once I form the Testudo, there's very little reason to spend all those movement points to turn back when I'm already in place and doing the best defensive thing. And it does reduce fire from the guys right on them who have to pretty much shoot at them. That kind of mistake's pretty easy to make when you're doing something like this all alone. There's just so many modifiers and everything that you've got so many numbers tossing in your mind that it's really hard to keep track of everything that you're supposed to. Anyhow, we didn't see much gain here, if any. I think I got a hex here. I'm not positive, and that's about it. Otherwise, the attacks were mainly failures. A large part of it is nothing was already, or very few places was anything lodged on the wall that could help to get rid of that -1 penalty. And then the odds aren't necessarily that good in most of those attacks. I just got really lucky here, and maybe the Jews made a bad choice because I got a follow-up attack, but the follow-up attack would have been even stronger. I managed to get a lot on that corner, and just, you know, the Jews decided to fall back rather than take an additional disruption. They would have been pretty weak, and they were really, really outnumbered there. So that's why this kind of fell. And then also some attacks got the Romans back in the breach here. One way to, you know, reduce the error other than just playing opposed is to play this in teams, because, you know, if two people are playing over here and two people are playing over here, they're not going to screw up that kind of screw up. They might make the other mistakes just as easily. Anyway, we're on to the Jewish turn, and they get their chance to come back at the Romans. The Roman firepower has been reduced heavily. For one thing, they lost a catapult. I don't know where it is. It's hiding under here or something. No, it's under these guys. There's a wreck marker down there. But they're also, you know, their archers and everything are taking a real beating because it's really easy to shoot the archers. So that's what a lot of this is. A fair amount of it's heavies, but, you know, proportionally, I think the archers have taken more of the brunt of the attack. And that's good, because the archers are really the dangerous ones in some ways. They can clear a wall section so your guys on the ladder can get up there or whatever. I don't feel bad for shooting the archers. I mean, I feel bad for them, but, you know, they are only cardboard. All right, so we push here into the 5th phase. It means 3 more daylight. Now, the Romans can keep pushing into night. There's probably not a great deal of reason against that, from what I can tell. Although it does, you know, it reduces the missile power. So, at least the ranged missile fire. So that's pretty impressive. Close range missile fire, which is what a lot of what we're seeing, remains just as effective. So what's happened? Well, the Jews are abandoning this bastion. They're abandoning a lot. They're abandoning this bastion that's so badly damaged it's going to collapse next time almost certainly. So they don't want to be there and lose units. So they're falling back, trying to create some sort of in-depth defense. They've largely failed. Melee is not their best attribute, to tell you the truth. They, you know, did some hits, but mainly not a lot here. Plus, the Romans aren't as exposed as they have been in some turns, so they're not like sitting in the breach here. Over here, they were sitting in the breach. Oh, by the way, yeah, another mistake. And I think these are mistakes are just going to be endemic in the play of this for me, and probably for most people, just because of the number of modifiers you have to try to remember and all the other things. In this case, I forgot to roll the Jewish reinforcements, or but I did it before their movement, so it didn't have much effect. But I forgot to do it in the rally phase. They really couldn't be shot anyhow from where I was setting them up. Get some troops showing up here in the upper city, moving into the new city, because I am out of the dark green faction. So I'm kind of channeling troops. Oh, I think I forgot to move these. Where the hell? I don't know. I don't know where these guys can even go. They're like totally out of command. And they gotta find a staircase going up. There aren't staircases on this side of the thing, so I think we gotta find our way that way. Whatever, you know. It's a couple of militia units. It's not gonna do much. Over here, we failed to displace the Romans from the breach. We did some damage, but we failed to displace them. We gave up this space. We had a couple panicked units that just looked like an untenable position in that fort. Plus, the ram was breaking it down, I think. No, the ram's breaking this one down, which we also abandoned. So we're kind of giving this whole corner up with the thought that, well, at least if we can slow the Romans from taking this, maybe we can prevent them from conquering the area. And we just have routing and panicking units all over the place. So, I mean, it's not like it looks... It's still up in the air, you know? We got this kind of push and pull going through the breaches and all kind of interesting fighting going on. There's a really nice narrative here. Just the level of detail that you have to pay attention to in the game kind of gets in the way of that, but I feel like once I get the pace down, it'll be pretty good. Going through my my command rally phase, I notice I seem to be missing the 12th Corps commander. He's over in the dead pile. I guess he got killed at some point. I didn't notice. That means I'm going to have to move Gallus, who rallied, over here to take command of these, because I'm having trouble rallying without command control. I'm also running out of route markers. I've started pulling some things out of Alexander for this. Using some as route, some as panic. Just there's enough units coming out of there. I've got some Roman units here. These guys have routed off board. I was already compacting them into one route marker. But that's not sufficient. At some point I think we're going to have units that are actually on the board and could get involved in stuff that are near the conflict, basically, that I'm not going to have sufficient markers for, because it's getting pretty bloody here. We're all a fairly effective set of Roman attacks, cutting into here, coming through here, just grabbing up that whole corner and extending their holdings there. I don't know if it's fast enough. We also got this bastion here. Wow. We've also got these weird situation, like over here, I think it is, where we've got our ram up against a bastion we've taken control of. You can see we gained some ground here as well. It looks like we're flooding over into there. I think we're going to get at least one area. I'm not sure which one. I don't know if we have the numbers to kind of grab the new city yet. I got to be careful and pay some attention to what the actual goals are. Got these breaches. These were open before, but now I'm going to try to push some cav through them and launch that as an attack. Basically, the more firepower or fighting power I can get through at any one time, the better off I am. I have staircases that I control here that I can start working my way down. These, I expected to be able to take these out this turn, and that didn't work. I was kind of hoping to take this corner the way I've taken this corner and just really create real problems for the Judean position. And of course, now the Judeans get the advantage in terms of the combat. They get to make the physical attacks. But they're at the disadvantage on the bowfire, and actually they didn't do very well on their bowfire this turn. The heavy infantry advantage, I think, kind of canceled things out. Most of the Roman bowmen were not in the optimal places to be shot at. You know, like here, we got people here that are firing. A lot of the firepower is forced to go at the legionaries, as opposed to our auxiliaries. Yeah, there's some long distance fire, but it's just the way the terrain of the wall worked, along with some positioning and everything. Okay, end of turn 5. That means only 2 more daylight turns. And I can't say that I'm too unhappy as the Romans with what the Jewish counterattack was. It was fairly unimpressive. Another couple of units died, no question. You know, that just happens. More units forming in the city. But I didn't really lose any significant territory. I've still got really this whole section of wall under my control. I've got a lodgement here that didn't get pushed off. Although I don't see much support for that, just because I'm kind of out of units down here. Most of them are pushing through. Counterattacks, the big one, the only one that really had a chance of succeeding, didn't. And then through here, you know, because of some routing units or something, this didn't end up, looks like that ballista is going to fall next turn. You can never be sure, though. It does get one more shot off. And not a lot happening here. You can see an escalade where some troops got pushed off. This is just not being pushed. I can't kill it with melee except by getting down there. And I don't have an exit there. I don't know. This is, I think, the nearest exit, or this. I really can't fight my way through to start busting up towers. Things are still enough in doubt for the defenders that, you know, taking risks like that seems incredibly crazy. Anyway, we'll push on. A very promising Roman turn. First of all, two commanders, Titus and Lepidus, marching in through here, managed to. Do have an extra commander, yeah. Managed to push through and really break open the tip of the mark of the upper city. That's big because there really isn't much that can defend the city right now. Now I can maybe get some additional troops here, but they're of the wrong contingent. They're all militia. They're gonna just fall apart. So there really isn't a lot that I can devote to defending this, and this is probably going to collapse. I might want to concede it, but I can still try one more defensive line, you know, a couple more defensive lines here. Maybe I can play it out for time, just because there aren't that many built-up hexes easily available to the Romans, so the line here becomes tough, but the Judean defenders can't withdraw from ground hexes. That was something else I was cheating against the Romans. I allowed them to engage the Romans and then fall back into the city. That seemed to make sense, but I found a rule that says, no, you can't do that. So now I'm kind of stuck here, and I can't bring these into play. I can put them along the wall and shoot if anybody tries to get in these hexes here, which they, of course, will. But there's not a whole hell of a lot else I can do over there. Over here, it's a lot tougher. I do have a breakthrough, but it's such tight quarters that it's really hard to fight my way through. Of course, there's more city hexes in a row, or built-up hexes in a row, but without a breach back here to kind of try to cut that section off, I don't think I have too much of a chance of getting the lower city, but I am making progress. And there's some possibility. Now, if I can take those two, that's huge. If I can take one of them, it's acceptable. But then over here, and you can see breakthroughs over in here, collapsing this area. I only have to take 15 of these city spaces, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This little section goes, and the whole new city is captured, essentially. Now, the Judeans can try to defend and prevent the Romans, maybe try some sort of counterattack or something, but in general, once the area falls, it probably can't be easily taken back. And we got a cav charge coming through this breach that was incredibly effective. Many attacks just swinging through here. I like the way that the momentum works in this game. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the through a different kind of system, but the Men of Iron system, where, you know, things get really exciting for a while, where you just get attack after attack after attack. You kind of don't, you eventually peter out. There's no penalty against you to stop you, but you know, eventually you outrun your position. But you can collapse a whole line at once, and it kind of makes sense. There aren't a lot of turns in a day, so each of these sections can be a fairly significant period of fighting. A couple hours at least. It would make sense to be able to break that kind of distance. And I like the mechanism, how that works. I like a lot of the mechanisms here. It's just, they all add up to a really annoying amount of potential for error in the charts. Anyway, it looks to me like this is definitely going to fall. This is likely to fall, and this is something of a stretch goal that, you know, the Romans might be happy enough just taking this, because that extends this huge territory that the Judeans have to defend, and it becomes kind of an awesome guesswork. I might be able to cut off Herod's palace. It's not going to be completely cut off. They can run through the sewers and reinforce it between turns. The Romans can't stop that, but you know, once an assault's declared, the troops aren't going to leave one area for another if I've got Jerusalem cut into pieces. The dead pile, disturbing. There's no question. Lots more Romans than there are Judeans dead. But, let's see. The prep chart here tells us we can get a pretty good percentage of those Romans back without delaying too long. We can't do an assault of this scale again right away, but you know, if we give it 4 or 5 weeks, I think we can manage a pretty big assault in one area. So, you know, something like this that might have a huge amount of exposure at the end of this turn becomes very, very tempting. All right, well, now it's the Judeans' chance to try to drive the Romans back. Another thing I've been doing is I've started putting missile troops up on the wall. I've got enough control of the wall in some areas that I've got the capability to put some missiles up there to do some fire over the heads of my Romans. Had some friendly fire. It's happened a few times. Oh, and the ballista went. That was an awesome attack. Every turn, the Jews manage one significant attack. They gather a lot of forces here and launch an attack, destroying all of the cav that punched through. That stuff's just too weak. It's not like the heavy infantry. It doesn't have a lot of strength. Get it surrounded, boom, it's gone. Over here, though, we see a lot less success in terms of dislodging the Romans, and this is what I need to take. This would have just made it more difficult for the Jerusalemites to defend this sector. And there's a limit to how many Roman armies there are. I got to be able to get 10 full-strength fresh Roman units in there. Now, fresh just means I can recover or whatever, but, you know, I kind of have to have this area in my back area for it well, I need to have some space for those units to recover at ground level. And right now, I'm pressed to get close enough to the wall that that's not likely to happen. Over here, the Jews sort of gained a little bit of ground. I think they gained this hex. And they took this breach, which is not necessarily the best place in the world to be. So everything's still in doubt. You know, what looked like a massive surge forward by the Romans, it gets pushed back. I really like watching that give and take of the forces. And the seesaw continues. The Romans carve out a nice little bubble here. I don't know, you know, it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to have to take the majority of my points over here. I only have 3 turns after this, and if the Jews are able to push me back, now that looks pretty questionable because there ain't much left down here, and there's nothing really coming from behind. There's reinforcements that might come in are part of this command. They're not going to be terribly effective over here. Over here we actually made some nice gains too, catching up on the wall here, but this looks even less likely than over here. And then here, where I thought I was going to get a lot of gains, pretty much got stymied by the line here. without really gaining much. This is one section where I certainly have enough Roman units, I hope. It's hard to tell. I mean, that's one of the problems. Do I have 10 Roman legion units? Here's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one was heading this way, and I got a couple of routed, a couple of disorganized. I have enough if I get a chance to recover them all. But it really looks like I'm pushing it at the edge here, and it may just be that I get nothing from any of these. Of course, the Jews have a huge territory to cover, and maybe I'll have learned something about how I want to deploy my Romans in terms of keeping some units off map for a surprise factor, because the Jews kind of have to defend everywhere in that case, and they didn't have to this time. They could build 2 big defensive crescents with the walls. Of course, the walls are in pretty questionable shape at this point, too. These breaches are not going to be repaired. So we got an opening here. We got an opening here. Another one here pretty much, although this ram is no longer being pushed. And then another big one here. You know, it looks like the areas that the Jews are trying to hold are not really defensible anymore, perhaps. Hard to tell for sure. Falls, boom, and the Romans are going to continue everywhere. They're feeling some possibility everywhere. This may be the least likely, just because so many defenders have kind of conglomerated in the area where I've got the best chance of pushing, but I feel like I'm still doing more damage. The Jews are having a really hard time doing anything to me, whereas my consolidation of force here is allowing me to pick off a few units a turn. You can see the casualties are beginning to get a little bit more equitable. Before, the Romans had like 3-1 or something. Well, now that we're in the city, we're able to do some real damage. Of course, we're taking some damage too. There's no question there. But once we get into these the built-up areas, in some ways that's overall advantageous to the Judeans. But once you start adding more and more negatives to the chance to hit a Roman force, it becomes almost impossible, given that they have less power to their units for the most part. Elsewhere, over here, I'm out of units for the Judeans. I've got a few more kind of streaming in. I'm trying to get some of these zealots into play, just hoping to stop the Romans, but I really have nothing in their way, and I think we're going to get pushed out completely this next turn. The question, of course, comes down to, hey, what happens to the routing, you know, and the disordered units? Because if those start becoming largely effective, things get harder. I threw these Judeans into play down here, pretty much a sacrifice job, but the other option is to run down the walls to here and try to position myself. And I feel like holding this wall is important to holding both territories. It provides me a firing platform which has been more effective casualty-wise than actually meleeing for the most part. Over here it's such a tight bottleneck. I don't think the Romans have a chance, but again, I've got the advantage because we're in ground combat now and there's just no reason for me to pull back. Knight's going to change a few things. Let's see what they are. The big one is the missile combat stops working properly during night. You can only fire in adjacent hexes. Rally's got a penalty. But the Judeans can start pulling out of combat and falling back. They're going to get pretty much wiped out before that happens, though, I think. Radius of command is reduced. The Judeans have a bonus in melee. That's going to hurt. They also have a bonus for reserve activation. Not that that matters too much. They've only got 13 left in the lower city. I'm not going to go expanding into other areas like Herod's Palace or anything. So, and I don't have the counters either. I have 2 Judean units left. So that's not really an important effect here. But either way, I feel like the Romans currently don't want to call it a night yet. I thought the night turns would be a bigger advantage for the Romans, but because they're not undergoing the same missile fire. But honestly, I don't know, their attack seems to have petered out enough that it's tough to do. We got all the artillery leaving the map. I just want to get them off board. I put them over with my routed crap. It's not coming back. I think my best hope right now is down here in the upper city. There are basically no defenders, but that still doesn't guarantee anything because a little bit of defense here with some of these units coming in might be enough along, well, I don't really have to worry about the missile fire, to prevent me from taking enough hexes. That looks fairly likely though. This, it's just too much of a bottleneck down here. That's just not happening. And here, I'm not making any headway. So I guess that's where I'm left. On the bright side, if there's anything I wanted to take, it's this. The new city is almost meaningless, I think. It just shortens the Jewish lines. And this would be great, but, you know. I'm giving tremendous lengthening of the lines by taking this internal location here that I think really throws a big nasty wrench in the Jewish defenses. And pushing into turn 8 here in this assault, Jews have somewhat thrown the Romans back down in this area. Lost a major loss though. Another breach was created by a ram. I've got to be really careful about this. Basically, I had a leader up there. Boom, he's dead. You know, it's about the easiest way to wipe out a powerful Judean force is just knock the wall down while I'm not paying attention. Over here, things are pretty much static. We drove the Romans out of... it's not like the Romans haven't lost some leaders due to stupidity either, actually. Drove the Romans out of the position here. This position gave a little bit of extra atche, as you would, in terms of maybe taking the lower city. I don't think the lower city can fall, though. The upper city, still the best chance. The Judeans are trying to form one last line. They're pulling units, these reserves that were coming in from prior turns. I didn't roll for my my extra units this turn, which was kind of foolish. Problem is, the only place I have anything left is here in the lower city. So I guess I could have just taken these. I'll remember to count them off and get them moving. It's hard to get anywhere in the lower city, but let's go up this way. I guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 along the walls here. Can't overstack. And we'll try to funnel them up here. Not that it really matters. Actually, I might be better off holding them and moving them down this way, because this doesn't have a command any longer. At least there's a commander I can follow down here. And this is where I need troops the most. So crossing from the lower to the upper city is hard, though. There are staircases to the wall between them, but there isn't a lot of pathway between the two. The one is right here, and the Jews are kind of holding on to this to prevent some kind of insurgence of force, because there isn't that much force pressing into the upper city, but there's a significant additional amount. I could give up on the lower city and just push forward. So we'll see how that breaks out. This, you know, this is looking further and further from reachable. as time goes on. There's just so many forces conglomerating there, and a fair amount around these breaches that even with the loss of the leader, I just don't see it. I don't see the new city falling particularly easily. But like I said, the new city's the easiest thing to take. I can ignore that. I'm not too upset at losing that. If I don't get the upper city, though, I've failed in this assault completely. I don't think it's going to work. Conclusion of the Roman side of the turn. No real gains here, even though they brought a lot of force to bear. You notice most of the routing units coming off the board. Those aren't dead pile. Those are still going to be available. And some of these will too. I get to recover, but over here, I was hoping to bust through here. I got a BE result. Killed off one zealot and gave the other one a B. I used everything against it with the hope that, hey, then Titus advances, and then he can make an attack here, and then I push forward. And I kind of unhinged their whole position. The only bright spot is I got a B here, and the defenders decided to pull back a little further away, which I don't know. I don't know how much value there is to that. Over here, still stymied, and really, this is the key, and I don't think it's opening up. It's changed as we move into the last turn of the assault, not last possible turn of the assault impulse. Now, the Romans could call this. They could say, okay, we're done. And it wouldn't be an unreasonable choice. I don't think they can possibly take this. What they have right now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 built up hexes. They need 9 more to be able to declare the area of victory. I can't possibly see that. Here, maybe there's some chance because there's enough room to maneuver, etc. You're kind of able, if you win a victory, a big enough victory, you're kind of able to keep rolling up the line. So that can be pretty potent. But the chances of it look pretty close to nil to me. Basically, I'd have to start rolling up this side and just continually be getting very good successes. So I could probably write that off. And over here, there's just no chance. But the thing is, not only is there that slender hope, but there's also the simple fact that on the Roman turn, they kind of do some damage. Yes, the Judeans' archery fire can do some damage back to them. And that's the one real risk here. They take almost nothing from melee combat, though, just because the legionary units are so tough in melee. And some of these missile units and stuff get shot up. They might get a disorder or something, but the chance of that turning into a destruction, even at night, is almost nothing for the Romans. They're mostly in command and mostly in pretty good shape in terms of being able to withstand things. Over here, I'll probably pull out of this breach. But other than that, I think I'm going to maintain the pressure just because I can cause a few more casualties than I'm going to take. And I think that's something of an advantage. Because it's pretty clear both sides are going to be very depleted soon. Okay, well, I guess this is the end of the line for this assault. Romans have to call it. It's the end of the 10th phase. Now, here, if they had like another turn, I think they get it. I found myself screwing something up, which probably aided the Judeans in the defense here, and also here, but also aided the Romans, which is that I've been ignoring command control restrictions for launching attacks. I've been doing them for rallying, but the penalty for rally. But you can't launch an attack if if you're not in command control. I was going to do this huge Judean attack against these two artillery rams, but I can't do that. But I did manage to slip out and burn this tower, which the Romans don't have zones going into the wall or going off the wall here. A little bit of clever placement of the cav would have prevented this from happening. But whatever, you know. I write it down to nothing's ever perfect. With the Jewish advantage in night combat, this didn't really work out very well. I thought, well, forcing it to more ground combat, less missiles, will help the Romans because they're low on missiles at this point in the battle, and the defenders have a lot of missile troops, just period, the end, but at this moment. But the night combat +1 probably, along with a little bit of cheating in favor of the Jews once again, probably help them out more than it helped the Romans. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to load this one up. In a sense, there's a lot of cleanup that has to happen between assaults, and then a significant amount of decision making in terms of placing everything, basically setting the game up all over again for the next assault. We're going to have to figure out how long the Romans are going to prepare for and what the effect that is on replacement points for both Romans and for the Jews. Calculate victory points, just a whole bunch of stuff. One thing the Judean defenders have in their advantage, they have the whole city. Nothing fell. There were times when it really looked like either this or this was going to fall. No. We got some nasty breaches, though, and we're going to see those having an effect on the setup. It's going to make the next assault that much easier. In fact, I may kind of want to do it right away, except I don't have many troops left. Of course, I don't have many troops left on either side. The defenders took a fairly significant loss as well, but I think the Romans gained more back by delaying. And they also have, they took some losses in their siege artillery, etc., for whatever that matters. But those big gaping holes in the wall, those aren't going to be fixed. You can only repair, as far as I remember, areas that are already damaged. Anyway, we'll send this one up and start on the next assault. Oh crap. I just went over my 400 limit here and I still got a whole bunch more left. I'm just too much of a butcher for this game. The Roman army mutinies. The siege is over. And I'll add this to my little video compilation first series. Yeah, I'm too bloody minded to have kept that in mind in any thought. The Romans could have called things off at the end of the daylight hours, but I mean, and no matter what, had they taken the upper city, whatever, they still would have failed in terms of taking way too many losses. Certainly next time I play, and I'm not gonna set up another one of this. Next time I play, I'm going to worry a lot more about not losing my entire army. I don't feel too terribly badly about where the Romans were. I had this mistaken statement about, geez, I heard this was unbalanced in favor of the Romans. Actually, now looking over comments and stuff over on Board Game Geek, I think I was misinterpreting it, that it's more heavily weighted in favor of the Judeans. And the Romans certainly have the harder task overall. Of course, I also cheated against them quite significantly throughout the whole game, trying to learn it. But I think I got a feel for the game, so I'll come back with a review. We'll see.